Welcome to another in the series, The Sip and the Chat. Welcome to another in the series, A Sip and a Chat. I'm your host, Leleith Tomlinson, and with me today is a very distinguished gentleman who has been in the education sector for quite a while, but he will tell you more about himself. Today, we want to examine the whole matter of parenting support, which we know of a fact continues to be a concern to not just educators, but to the society at large. So before I go any further, I want to welcome first time to Sip and Chat, Mr. Principal Jackson. I got it right?
Yes, you did.
Well, welcome to Sip and Chat. I know that you're a very busy gentleman, so I really want to publicly thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us this afternoon.
And thank you so much for having me. Well, my name is Mark Jackson. I've been teaching for over 34 years.
34 years. That deserves, so much applause.
I have done teaching at the primary level, the secondary level, and I've also done courses with tertiary students. I believe teaching is my calling. Although these days I know
Question it.
but I tested it. There is really just calling on me, and people keep calling me pastor and so on. Hopefully I'll respond to that calling.
That's good.
But I enjoy teaching. I think I was impacted immensely by my primary school teachers. To date, I still remember my primary school principal and how she used to behave. I think I developed the likeness for teaching because of her and how she treated us as students. My mother would also remind persons sometime that I would come home from primary school and I would regurgitate what the teachers would have taught me. And so the stones in the backyard and the plants were my students.
Boy, if those plants ever came alive, if those plants ever, I say it all the time. I had interestingly, 4 soursop trees at the back of my yard. Each of them had a name of someone in the class.
And
they had no see some good ideas sometimes. They did get into. So anybody that was in the class, that was a total knocker.
That's the same thing. That's the same bit.
Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing how
to show that we live what we learn? Because of how we saw our teachers treated with students in the classroom, we went home and we regurgitated. I do believe though that I went into teaching because of how my teachers impacted me. When I was in high school, I transformed a building at home into a classroom, and every summer I would teach children in the community.
Wow.
That's so much so that from a young age, I was called teacher and still called teacher now in the community. So I left high school and I started working as a pre-trained teacher at Santa Cruz Preparatory in St. Elizabeth.
So you're St. Elizabeth, man?
No, I'm actually Kingston and
grown
up at Cassia Park Road. Then my mother went back to St. Elizabeth, so we went back with her, went to St. Elizabeth, got high school. Then left taught at Santa Cruz Preparatory, went to Michael, of course.
Oh Lord, he's Michael.
What do you make a college? Then graduated. And I ended up in St. Catherine teaching music because my major was Spanish and music. And from there I became Dean of Discipline Vice Principal and then now Principal of Ascot Primary School.
Excellent. So I'm hearing you saying that you were inspired by those who were before you in the education sector, and I'm sure that just by that kind of passion that you have exuded over the years, there are many today that are being influenced by you. And so we really want to applaud all of our teachers one of the things when we conceptualized Sip and Chat, it was really about acknowledging unsung heroes, because a lot of times there are so many people that contribute daily in a profound way to the growth of a society, but we don't know their names, but their impact is certainly something that we know about. And I believe that our teachers, and in particular, those who lead these institutions, are persons that deserve all the accolades that goes with success. So what have been some of your interesting, I'm sure there's a plethora of stories that you can give us, but as you think about being in academia, what are some of the experiences that you've had? Because a lot of people now are saying that, I don't know if I want to teach, But why would you encourage somebody to go into teaching?
But I must tell you that it is the school these days that is mainly taking the lead in helping our children to harness the right values and attitudes.
Well,
Many of the homes have failed. You know, the other day I was talking to my guidance counselor, and she said to me, I said to her, but what percentage of our students you think really come from homes? I said, not a house, a home, where guidance is given by parents, nurturing taking place. And she said, sir, about 90% of our students are not coming from homes. I would say at 10%.
Isn't that alarming?
It is. And I concur with what she said. And I've been saying this to the parents. When they come to school, the homes have no structure. You can see the children run wild. Their attitude towards schoolwork is very poor. The support that they get when they get homework and project, it's a small percentage of students really return with it done. When you further ask them, how many of you go to church? It's a small percentage. When you ask how many of you live with both parents, look, that's
very minuscule.
Exactly. You find the majority living with mothers only, or older siblings or grandparents. And as a result of that, our children are growing without the kind of a structure, the kind of nurturing. And to compound the issue now, the gadgets become their parents. And then that expose them now to a myriad of things that they should not be exposed.
All right, I want to go back up a little bit because this is something that is very concerning. You know, we know that there probably are discussions every day about some issues like this. But talk to us, Mr. Jackson, about what is it and some of the things, and I mean, you allude to it, but if about 90% of our children are not coming from homes, they're coming from houses, probably nice, good houses, building.
Good word of God made it.
Yes. Tell us, our audience today, what are some of the things that you think sets the tone for a good home?
Right. So, my guidance counselor, we do psychosocial sessions, and the main reason for that is to help parents to understand from the stage of pregnancy right through what obligation they have to that unborn child until that child is born. And some of the things are creating a bond, behaving in a way that is befitting before the child is even here. The importance of communicating to the child from the child is in belly, and then when the child is out, how you interact. Do not use aggression from early with the child because they will learn that and become aggressive. Do not abuse alcoholic beverages, and create a social environment that augurs well for good manners and discipline. Those are some of the main things, because those are some of the main things that are lacking. Social graces. Simply thank you, excuse me. It is not natural
Anymore.
No, not anymore. Children walk past you and they said, step back, pass me again. What should you say? Some stand look at you like they're blank. And sometimes others say to another one, sir, good morning, sir. It is the simple, what you would call simple common courtesy is lacking. But to make the problem even worse is when parents themselves come to school and walk past the principal standing there, and you have to say, miss, I'm the one in charge of your child, and you just step past me. It's like, it's not in their everyday deportment to be cordial and to be polite.
Mr. Jackson, I'm hearing her, and I'm really so overwhelmed and saddened, right, by all that you're saying and what I know actually do exist. And I'm smiling because the other day I had a situation where I was in a space, right, in an office. There are 3 offices that are joined in each other. So you can walk right from office 1 to office 2 to office 3, right through. And I stood there talking to someone, and I saw a young lady walking past everybody from office 1 through to office 2 to office 3, where I was in the middle. And a lady said to me, did you see that? Because everybody was like stunned, like, how do you pass through somebody's office without even stopping to say, I'm passing through? And the lady that was with me was so taken aback that she got up, she went for the young lady and said, what just happened? Where are you coming from? How did you just pass? The young lady said she didn't want to disturb anybody. You walk through somebody's space and nothing says to you because you're basically intruding, and there seem to be things happening around you, then you need to say, excuse me, I need to get to the other side. Wow. You said something, and I want you to go back there because I think it's where the problem starts. When mothers become pregnant, the kind of interaction that they have with the unborn child, a lot of people are not paying enough attention to that. So having abused that 9 months of pregnancy with, like you said, alcohol, even cursing the unborn child, because, in most cases, general situation in Jamaica is that once you get pregnant, you can't find the father. So they curse a lot during that tenure. Talk to us as an educator, how sometimes you can see that attitude of even resentment by the child and so on manifested in the schools.
So most of our children are living with single mothers. So, and the rift between the mom and the dad, in many cases, we have had students who have gone to the guidance counselor to say, I feel nobody loves me. I want to see my father. I long to see my mother. So the separation that exists from birth or sometimes after birth, it really affects the children psychologically. Research has shown that absent parent or absent mothers or an environment that doesn't cater to the development of the child, as is outlined, for example, the psychologist Erickson will show that they become maladapted and persons when they become adults. Some of them become aggressive, some become reclusive, some become all kind of different things. Right. Some become even promiscuous, some become antisocial, all kind of different things happen. For example, he's a little boy at school. He's very aggressive. Anybody who interferes with him, he doesn't hesitate to fist or kick or so on. Now, when we realize what was happening to him, that's what he learns in his environment. When his mother, single mother, who's with him, gets frustrated, she'll just tear him, box, kick, anything. She'll find anything and hit him. And so that's what he learns. And he comes to school, he does the same thing. Research shows that girls who are not grown with their fathers tend to become sexual early and see that kind of a sexual attention from males because they never had their fathers in their lives.
And I think that I just want to pause right there. So because a lot of times we hear persons saying, my mother who fathered me. And I go out on a limb to tell them that that's not a prophet. We don't want to hear that. And it's not that we're insensitive to the fact that you didn't have your father, but what we want, we don't want to build a culture where people feel, oh, it's okay, I don't have a father, my mother will father me. There is a distinct role for father and there's a distinct role for mother. And kudos to the mothers who are able to still play that role and bring up that child. But we can't underestimate the role of fathers.
Many of our mothers do that. I have had mothers who come to register children and leave off the name of the father and the contact. And I said, why? He plays no role in his life. So I'm not putting the name. I said, you're going to have to do that. So much so that we now have to start having sessions for mothers only. Until to the guidance counselor, help them to understand that the fathers have a place. Because many of the mothers treat the relationship when something goes awry as a very transactional one. Mm-hmm. So if the father not helping the child or supporting the child, he will not see the child. He will not interact. So we have to be having the psychosocial sessions to help them to understand that the father still has a role. Mm-hmm. And it is important that children grow with both. We also now have to start a fathers movement at school. Wow. Where we ask fathers to come to meeting to help them to understand the important role they have and the nexus between children, especially boys, growing without fathers and crime and violence.
Talk to us a little bit more about that, because I think that's something that we really have to make known in our society. That because you see, what we don't want to get to a place where, as you said, parenting is transactional. Okay, I have a baby for you. That is one transaction, and the rest of the transaction is that you just come and drop off the money every week or every month, and if you don't do it, you haven't fulfilled your responsibility. There's more to parenting than money.
Much more. That is.
So talk to us a little bit about the importance of especially boys engaging with their dads and how that helps with wholesome development.
Right. So it's a Jamaican phenomenon, I think, where mothers think that they can play the role of both father and mother. But as that child grows, especially the boy venturing into teenage years, the influence of the mother lessens. And that's when you'll find a lot of mothers having challenges with them because the boys are now saying, you don't understand this thing, you're a woman. And they will now gravitate to the guys on the corner because they're expecting somebody who's older than them to lead. Now, if the father is not there inadvertently, these young guys are going to lean to anybody else older for counseling. And in most cases, it's the guys on the corner who really does not give them the right kind of leading that they should get. And hence, they're cultured in the way they are. And as a result of that, many of our youngsters become a part of gangs and a part of crime and violence, not intentionally. But because these older persons, who most of them sometimes are hoodlums, they become the person who is there to guide them, the kind of person who they can go to. If you look, for example, in Portmore, a number of the unattached youths, you'll find them along the walkways. Because Portmore, according to how the schemes are structured, a lot of
Walkways are there.
And so they drop out from high school and all the others who are not working. They find solace talking to each other. And therefore, they become like a buddy system. So it's easy. You're there for me. I can always go to you. I feel accepted around you. So it's so easy for you now to you get the faith and the trust from these persons. So it's easy to say, look, brother, we'll go up on a thing tonight. You come. You're not going to say no. Because you become a support to him or her. And that's what happens when many of the fathers are absent. Thank God for church. Who sometimes the Sunday school teacher who is a male or a church brother might fill that gap and help some of our youngsters, which is a smart percentage to go to church anyway. So the church, in terms of the males in church who are role models, help to save some. But the majority we have lost because the males are not there. Another thing too in Jamaica that exists, many of our fathers did not grow up with fathers themselves who knew how to be good fathers. So the notion is my core function is to provide. So you have fathers who say, I don't want a PT, I used to go.
Right.
Me buy the book, me so and so, but the mother will come and say, we're having a meeting for all fathers, you're supposed to be. So I can't come in and have work money, so the mother will come and say, it's not for mothers, it is for fathers. And so many fathers stay away. And sometimes what I have to do is to go on the phone myself and call and say, you need to be there. For grade 6, before they graduate, we say all fathers have to come if you want your child to graduate.
I love that.
So when we do that, the library is filled from back to front. The room is crammed with fathers. Why? Because everybody wants their child to graduate.
Yeah.
And so we capitalize on that opportunity now to tell them about the importance of being a father, how it helps a child, self-esteem, self-confidence, and help to leave a legacy. Because if you give the child, many of our children are barren children, you give them all the material things they need, but the attitude, the values that they should really have, they don't have it, and so you don't leave a legacy behind in the form of grand and great grands. So we show them the importance of that and how being a father can help to change the kind of children we grow in.
I think I really want to thank MTM for affording us this opportunity to really bring some of these things to the forefront, because one of the things that I really put forward here on MTM is just also the role of parenting in terms of we have come to recognize that the home structure is devoid of that kind of male figure, especially with the boys and the girls as well, because a lot of things that girls are going to come to expect from the husband that they're looking for is what they would have seen in their dad, right? And so I think when we get to a state in a society where we take and we let anything go and say we will adopt, or we try to make do with what we don't have, then we're creating a structure that is going to come back to haunt us. And that's what we're seeing today. I want you to talk to me. So I was going to the point where we need to also appreciate the social institutions. And, one of the things I remember growing up as well was, we talk about the church. We also had things like the cadets in the communities, like the Boy Scouts, whatever, would have these different things that would do camping and so on. So what are some, I know the school is doing their part, but what are some of the other social institutions? And I must commend you on the initiatives I hear about the school, like with the graduations. And public persons need to attach more things to those things. I have a son that goes to Women's as well, and there's a time when you just have fathers who do devotion, or fathers. We don't want to say no mothers today. We want to say fathers show up for the devotion. And I think the society at large must continuously engage in activities that says, Dad, show up, Dad, show up, Dad, show up, Dad. So talk to us about some of the institutions that you think can play a more pivotal role in helping what we have left to reshape our society.
So the church, like I said, is playing a role. I can't say to what extent, but I do about the church is there as an institution. Us as a school, we have to now consider offerings outside of just curriculum.
Mhm.
So we have to create a kind of clubs, like you mentioned, the cadet. We have the Red Cross. We have Brownies, 4-H, and so on, as a means of helping them along the social spectrum. The National Parenting Teachers Association also, I think, as a body, I was speaking to one of the representatives the other day, and I was saying, hey, we know about the National PTA, but it's just there. We're on TV, is there an ad running to say, here is the National PTA and what we're doing. You just know it's there. You might open the directory and say, hey, it exists and here is a number. The PTA in schools, if we get the kind of parents with the passion to, can really impact parents and create a ripple effect in the community. National Child Agency, we don't say CDA anymore. This is a new name, which I myself
Right, as there was a change of.
not to you pronounce. I remember exactly what it is. But these institutions are there. What I'm realizing too, that they're understaffed and they only cater to the people the children who are really going over precipice, the worst of the worst. You will bring forth a case of abuse or so on, and you hear that, oh, we have several others that are more severe than that. So though you perceive what you have encountered as severe, that is going way down the list.
Right.
So we think that the homes, I don't know, sending a child to a home is like sending them to hell, if you ask me.
You mean these government homes, right?
So I can't even say that those are any savior, or they need to improve on the offerings.
So do you think there is hope? Do you think there is hope?
There is.
I know you're doing what you can over there at Ascot Primary, but generally, how you see the future? I the behavior of the children, the society, is there hope?
There's hope in King Jesus, I believe. I can't think of another hope because the decadence is so much that I was saying to some teachers, how do we fix this? Because number one, they come to you and you try to inculcate some values, but they go back into another thing.
Society.
So they're in and out and in and out. We save some, but we're losing many and continue to.
Right. So I guess what we have to do, we have to applaud those persons who educators, church groups, and those community members who, as I know there are some community members, they might not even have any children, but they take it upon themselves, to be the mother of this particular avenue or so on, to mentor and to continue to give back. And I really must commend everybody who continues to say, listen, we're going to the wire with this one, even though it looks this way, we're going to the wire with it and so on. So one of the things that we know that parenting is hard. So in the early stages, what do you think that as a society we can do, probably at the early childhood we can do to get parents more engaged in, because there's education and there's also disciplining the child, but I think they're interconnected. So from the early in the interaction with mother, child, father, child, what kind of premise should we be setting? How should parents be related to children to get them to that more this level where we don't see them as being so caustic and being so hostile, and just a better child coming to the primary and then ultimately tertiary?
Years ago, I think the health centers would have had sessions for.
Oh yes, I think that's right.
I think we have had some great things in Jamaica, but we just filter them out along the way.
I will change the name
and we call them all kind of fancy things, and they come back to haunt us, because I believe one of the things that has happened is when youngsters start having children and they themselves did not acquire the kind of attitudes and values to be ready to grow children. And it continues because parenting, is like heritage. It passes on. So if you weren't trained to be a good mother and you have a child, you grow them anyhow, your child was reared or raised in the any old home culture, and it continues, and that's why we're where we are today. So I think that we need to have family life counseling or something back in the health center when persons become pregnant to say this is how you do it. This is how, and we have to continue it. We have Jamaica for lifelong learning, that institution.
It does.
It takes Jamal and then they change that into Jamaica for lifelong learning. Those institutions, I think, can help.
I know that you're saying it. I remember even some books that you in the same Jamal that you used to have some books about parenting.
Yes.
You know, sometimes the solution isn't necessarily to call a consultative committee and get ahead of this and so on. It's sometimes just to reflect on some of the things that worked well in the past and say, okay, how can we capitalize on those things? Because as you said, we know it's not what we want it to be. It's not where it's supposed to be. But as we continue to exist on the planet, we still have to do what we can. And I think that's something that whoever is watching today and you're in the spaces, we need to go back to basic education. Basic education about what is parenting. So we need to probably have some programs on the TV sponsored by some of these companies. Parenting is this. Are you a good parent? And it's so funny that I'm talking about this, but I remember even as a child when we had the program Two is Better Than Too Many. We still remember it. No. And that was because it was so much up in our faces. So, I mean, we might not save everybody, as you have said, but if we get back to some grassroots things, be accountable. How can you be in your bed and your child is on the road? Are you not uncomfortable?
And I mean, it just happened. They're not held accountable.
But yeah, boys who come to school who leave for school, probably don't even go back home until 3 days. And when you don't even see the mother show up.
It's the norm. Wow. I think and then the single parent family today becomes so frustrated. So the mothers sometimes have to become the breadwinner, so they're gone to work and nobody's at home. You know what is quite alarming? You have 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds coming to school with the house key around their neck. Because when they get home, there's no adult there. They have to let themselves in and find something with a cornflakes or whatever mommy leaves there. And we have to be saying to some of our parents, look, you can't do this. It's not good. But at the same time, the economics, when they talk to you, sir, I can't afford daycare or somebody to take care of this child because I'm the only person in this family who have to go out and fend. It's just how many. Wow. And then in years when we were in Always School, I remember the ministry used to have, I don't know what they call them at the time, but they would come to school like every Friday and find out from the principal who are the students who are absent. And they would try to visit the homes to see who are these persons who are absent, why they are not there. Over time, we have to smash some of the great things that would have worked. There's no accountability framework in Jamaica for parents. So as we wrap up, what would you want to say to Jamaica out there as it relates to being more responsible as parents? So, the quality future that our country is going to have, or the quality generation of children, that exceed the quality parents we have. Wow. And so parents have to understand that the onus is on us when we start having children to make sure that our children do not just fall into the lagoon of what exists in our country as we speak. We still have to make it a part of our duty to try to grow our children to the best of our responsibility and help your children to value education. Because as far as I know, for many of us in Jamaica, education is poor people's passport out of poverty. And so we cannot grow our children badly and make the excuse of poverty. Inculcating values and attitudes is what really make us a legacy for our country. As for me and my household. Joshua. Yes.
We serve the Lord.
Serve the Lord.
Wow. Well, there's so much more discussion that we could have had with Mr. Jackson, and I want to thank you so much, sir. Parenting is probably one of the easier words to say, but one of the hardest things to do. But there's help. And we must always remember that children are the heritage of the Lord. Yes. They are a gift from God. And I will always say, maybe in today's society, we're not held accountable, but one day we'll have to give an account of how we nurtured and cared for the gift that we got in the form of a child. until next time, let us continue to sip and the chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow, this was so good.